Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our UCEAP Summer Physics Abroad info session. My name is Ana Arellano, and I oversee the summer physics programs here at UCLA. So we have quite a handful of items that we will be touching today in our session. We will be discussing what the summer physics programs are, what types of programs are available within this session, the academics, the eligibility. If I've convinced you to apply to these programs, give you a little bit more about what that application process looks like. We will briefly touch upon the finances as well as the financial aid that could be included with these programs. And we'll conclude with a brief Q&A session followed by a student panel. So what is summer physics abroad? The UC Education Abroad program, we also know it as UCEAP, they offer two distinct programs in which two different universities, they offer their own physics curriculum, which has been pre-approved by the UCLA Physics Department to satisfy part of the UCLA Introductory Physics Series. We have two programs. We have the Dublin Summer Physics programs offered by University College Dublin in Ireland, and we have the Glasgow Summer Physics programs offered by the University of Glasgow in Glasgow, Scotland, and the UK. So we have two programs and we have two tracks. So we have the physics for life science track and we have the physics for physical science track. If you're interested in our life science track, you have both programs to choose from, so both Dublin and Glasgow. And for those interested in the physics for physical science track, only the University of Glasgow offers this track. On both of these programs, you will be studying abroad for 8 weeks from mid-June to mid-August. The exact dates for summer 2023 are still pending. However, you can expect to be away from mid-June to mid-August. And as I mentioned, you will be satisfying part of the introductory physics series. On the life science track, students can satisfy physics 5A and 5B, while those interested in satisfying 1A and 1B can opt for the physics for physical science track. Here's a visual breakdown of what the enrollments for these programs will look like. Whether you're in the physics for life science or physics for physical science track, you will be enrolling in two courses within the span of 8 weeks. The first half, the first 4 weeks, you will be enrolling in physics 1 for 4 units. And the second half, the last 4 weeks, you will be enrolling in physics 2 and earning 4 units. So in total, you will be away for 8 weeks, enrolling in 2 courses and earning 8 units. So now let's look at the two programs that we have to offer, the life at the university, as well as just what there is to explore at those respective cities. So we have University College Dublin. It's a very modern university. It feels like those modern sections at UCLA. Think of South Campus or Sunset Village. And University College Dublin is roughly a 25-minute bus ride away from the city center. In Dublin, the residents make you feel really welcomed. You can expect a very student-friendly atmosphere. On your days off or during your time off, you can visit the Stone of Destiny, the Dublin Castle, or as well travel to the famous Cliffs of Moher. I have included on the screen a shortcut, a bit.ly, if you want to visit the direct UCEAP Dublin Summer Physics page to learn a little bit more in-depth information about these programs. You can expect to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner provided Monday through Friday. During the weekend, you would be responsible for your own meals. You would have a room to yourself. It's in a 4-bedroom and 2-bathroom suite, and you will have a shared kitchen and dining area. So it's similar to apartment style type of housing. And this housing is approximately a 5-minute walk to class. At the University of Glasgow, it would seem like you're traveling back in time. You will be surrounded by very Gothic arched buildings. At the University of Glasgow, Einstein actually once lectured, fun fact. So you'd be walking the halls that Einstein once lectured at. City of Glasgow is very famed for its Victorian architecture. And for our Harry Potter fans, it was actually the inspiration for Hogwarts. Here on your days off, your time off, you can explore the many museums that Glasgow has to offer, as well as exploring the Glasgow Cathedral or the Scottish Highlands that are pictured on screen. At University of Glasgow, breakfast, lunch, and dinner are provided Monday through Friday afternoon. Students would be responsible for their own meals Friday evening through Sunday. Here you will have a single room and you will share a bathroom in a 2 to 5 person residence, and it's approximately a 15-minute walk to class. Once again, I've included a bit.ly for you to receive more information, more in-depth information if you wish to do so. So now let's look into the academics of these programs. A very common question that we often receive is which program is the easiest? And the answer is that none of them is the easiest. Physics abroad is not the easy way out. These programs are fast-paced and they are rigorous. Your UCEAP courses will factor into your UC GPA, which means that if you unsuccessfully complete one or both courses, you cannot retake them at UCLA to fix your GPA. You can retake them to fulfill the UCLA requirements, but both the UCLA and the UC GPA will factor into your total UCLA GPA. Your UCAP grades will not just disappear. I also do want to add that while these programs satisfy the same requirements at UCLA, you cannot compare the same academic structure, the grading, the teaching methods of both programs. They are each different. They offer their own curriculum, and comparing both programs together would be like comparing UCLA with Berkeley, with USC, or with Stanford. They each offer their own curriculum. So just make sure you're not comparing between one another. And in fact, University of Glasgow does offer a unique type of academic setting, what we call a flipped classroom design. Here, it's a very student-centered academic structure, which entails you completing the pre-session readings before you get to class, as well as actively participating in the class discussions. And all this is very vital to both the discussions as well as your contributions to the class as a whole. On our student panel today, we have a returnee who attended the University of Glasgow and can speak a little bit more about this flipped classroom design and what that entails. If you intend to apply to medical school, we can assure you that you will satisfy the UCLA Physics 5AB or 1AB courses, but we cannot guarantee that medical school will accept this credit. Historically, to our knowledge, UCLA students have not had an issue with this curriculum for medical school acceptance, but we do want to emphasize that it is a student's responsibility to check in with that respective school of interest to make sure that they would accept this curriculum. All coursework on the UCEAP programs will be converted into UC units. What that means is that there is no host university transcript, no transcript for University College Dublin or Glasgow. Because everything's converted into UC credit, you will only be providing your medical school, that UCLA transcript. So just keep that in mind. If they do request that host transcript, there is no host transcript. It's only your UCLA transcript. If you receive CAE accommodation at UCLA, our partners abroad, they may be able to offer equivalent or partial accommodations while you are abroad. For this to happen, you will have to submit a letter from CAE to UCEAP directly. Our UCEAP team will then speak with our partners abroad to assess the request. At this time, no action is required. Action will be required after you have been nominated, but I do want to acknowledge that this is something that could be accommodated if possible by our partners. So now let's speak about the eligibility of this program. What is required? So the first eligibility we have is a GPA requirement. If you're interested in participating in the University College Dublin program, you would require a cumulative UC GPA of a 2.5 or above. The University of Glasgow would require a 2.9 and above. The second requirement is maintaining good academic standing, and this is as defined by your college or school. Typically, this entails having a term GPA of a 2.0 and above. However, it's, as mentioned, defined by your college or your school. The third requirement is meeting those math prerequisites. Those interested in completing the Physics for Life Science program must complete Math 3AB, Math 31AB, or LS 30AB. For those interested in the Physics for Physical Science track, you would have to complete Math 31A and Math 31B and Math 32A. Math 32B is not required, but it is strongly recommended. All of these courses, they do have to be successfully completed by the end of winter 2023. And these are the same requirements that UCLA requires for students to enroll in physics on campus. We do have that requirement of having them completed by winter to ensure that you are successfully completing this by the end of spring. Exceptions to this policy of completing by the end of winter, they can be considered on a case-by-case basis for those students who have a core STEM GPA of 3.0 and above. If you have not taken any core STEM courses, for example, we will consider those that are currently in progress for the fall. Think of any LS course or any other STEM course. We will consider those, and we'll have that exception policy discussion in the winter quarter once you have that established STEM courses. For our first year applicants, if you're interested in the physics for physical science track and have not started your math series, you will be considered for this policy since you will not be able to complete this series until the spring term. So we will be considering that, and we will be keeping you on track until your departure. Another thing I do want to mention is that if you have already satisfied these requirements through DARS, whether that's through AP credit, whether that's community college credit, we will accept that. It's anything that has already been satisfied on your UCLA record. So if UCLA accept that, we would accept that for eligibility purposes. This was a lot of information. So if there's something that's not clear, please enter your questions in the Q&A or send me an email separately and we can have a further conversation. But these are the math requirements that are necessary to be qualified for these programs, and they must be completed by the end of winter quarter. So eligibility continued your eligibility must be met at the time you submit your application until you go abroad, so until summer 2023. Students can be withdrawn at any time for not meeting any of the 3 requirements, so just making sure that you're maintaining that eligibility requirement. If you have any repeated coursework for math, we would recommend you reconsider these programs. Like I mentioned, they are fast-paced and they are rigorous programs. At minimum, we would encourage you to test your math skills through the math diagnostic quiz. I have a quick bit.ly right there, and that's simply to gauge your preparedness. By no means do you need to complete this quiz. It's just simply to see how prepared you may feel. Like I mentioned, fast-paced, rigorous, so we want to make sure that you are comfortable on these programs. For our first year applicants, most likely you do not have an established UC GPA, but you will need one to confirm your eligibility. So for our first year applicants, you can apply to these programs. When you apply, you will be submitting your unofficial transcript from MyUCLA. This will not have your GPA, but it will serve as a placeholder. Once you receive your final grades for the fall term or before the deadline to apply to this program, which is January 10th, you must resubmit an unofficial transcript that then shows your fall term grades and your established UC GPA. So for our first year applicants, please make sure you include this date onto your calendar. That way you don't have your application withdrawn. It's very important that you resubmit that transcript. If you expect to graduate this coming spring, so spring 2023, you must be an enrolled UCLA student to participate on these programs. So because of this, you must contact your academic advisor, whether you're part of the CAC, or the honors, AAP, or school, and you want to speak about the possibility of pushing your graduation date to summer 2023 instead of spring. If you are able to extend your graduation and you wish to receive financial aid, you will need to complete FAFSA one last time. So this would be for the 23 to 24 academic year. Another thing that I want to note for our expected graduates is that I want you to keep in mind that grades can take up to 90 days from the program end date to be received by UCLA. So this is very important to note because your degree cannot be conferred until UCLA receive these grades. If, for example, you have a job lined up for the fall or you have a graduate program to start and they need proof of your degree completion, this may be delayed. So it's important that you start those conversations, letting them know that they will not be received until possibly 90 days after. So just something to do keep in mind. Now, let's speak about the application process. How can you apply? Hopefully I've caught your interest. So the first thing you want to do is view our deadlines. These applications, they will open this coming Tuesday, October 4th at 9 a.m. and they will remain open until the end of the day on Tuesday, January 10th. These programs are not limited space, meaning that as long as you submit your application, you meet all the requirements, we expect to have you nominated and expect to accommodate all interested students. So if you submit your application on October 4th or January 10th, you're guaranteed a spot as long as you meet the requirements. So the next step would be to apply. If you haven't already, you would create a UCEAP account. There are 2 portions of the application. There's the UCEAP application, and you can find that on the link provided on the screen. And then there's the UCLA IEO questionnaire. This questionnaire is found within the UCEAP application under the instructions and requirements. So as long as you submit both, that is your application. It's going to ask for an unofficial transcript, which is something that we already previously discussed. But the application should take no longer than about 30 to 45 minutes. It's not difficult, but it's going to ask for example, your emergency contact information, the courses that you're currently enrolled in and expect to enroll in until you go abroad. It's going to ask for you to sign some documents. So it's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit time consuming. So something to just do keep in mind. But no personal statement is required, no letter of recommendation, none of that. So the next step is receiving your nomination. Your nomination is your acceptance into these programs. So we expect to receive anywhere from 100 to 200 applications. So it may take some time for our office to review your applications. And because of this, you most likely will hear from me once again anytime between mid-January, early to mid-January. And you will be notified by this date whether you were nominated for the application or why we couldn't nominate you at this time. For our first year applicants, you will receive a nomination that's conditional upon resubmitting your unofficial transcript. So just something to do keep in mind. And that's it, and you're done. You have applied to the summer physics programs. What happens next? So after you submit your application, both the UCEAP application and the IEO questionnaire, within 48 hours of your submission on the UCEAP portal, you may notice that your application status would go from submitted to campus review. Once you submit the IEO questionnaire, you will receive an automated email letting you know that, hey, the IEO received your application, it is being reviewed, so you're good to go. So what this means is that no news is generally good news. So I also want to emphasize it's important for you to check your email. Occasionally, there may be a missing part of your application or something that needs clarifications. So making sure that you're checking your inbox as well as spam inbox, just in case an email sometimes slips there. But no news, generally good news. If you receive that automated email from the IEO questionnaire, you are good to go. What happens next is that I will review programs for eligibility. As mentioned, you should receive an email from me by mid-January. However, I do expect to be reviewing applications on a rolling basis. So it's more likely 2 to 4 weeks after you submit your application, latest mid-January. And like I mentioned, while there may be a wait from the time you submit your application until you hear back from me, provided you meet and you maintain the eligibility requirements, you should receive a nomination and as well participate on the program. So I hope to provide some reassurance that if you meet the application requirements and you don't hear back from me, if you submitted everything, you are good to go. So we reviewed our programs, we reviewed the academics and the application process. Now let's look a little bit about the finances of these programs. So to get a breakdown of the program finances, we're going to head to the UCEAP program page directly. And on the left-hand side menu, we're going to click on cost. It's going to prompt you to this screen that gives you a total estimated expenses. Currently, I do want to note that the UCEAP website is going through modifications. So the current cost that you see on screen for $13,548, it does not reflect the true cost of this program. In fact, the program will actually be less than the $13,000. So I want to show you this so you know where to access the information, but the program cost will not be $13,000. It actually be modified, and I'll show you that in a bit. And then in the next couple of slides. So from that page, if you scroll down just a little bit more, it gives you a summary of what's included on this budget, including what is included in the budget and what is not. And you can also customize your budget. So let's say, for example, here we selected that we are a UCLA student, we are not a California resident, and we not a graduate student, and we're interested in the physics for engineering track. What that gives us is your own customized budget, which gives you a breakdown of what you are paying in this respective fees. And like I mentioned, this is simply an estimate. So UCEAP is including all the estimated fees that a student is expected to incur while they are abroad. So that includes a round trip airfare. So let's say, for example, they estimate $1,000, but you find a round trip airfare for $800, then there your total cost already decreases by $200. Once again, this total $13,000 is not reflective. None of this information is, and it will change, it will modify, it would actually decrease. But I do want to show you where you can find that budget for the respective programs. Normally, I would show you a chart that's full with this information already showing you comparing the costs. Because UCEAP's website is going to modifications, the only thing I can guarantee you is that the total price for Glasgow is going to be $10,757. Dublin, it's still in the works with a partner university. So that is still pending. It should be available within the next couple, I want to say within the next couple of weeks, 1 week, I would say. But Glasgow, it's guaranteed 10,757 will be your total. And this information is that I showed you previously that would be available on the UCEAP website. So for financial aid, students can apply their financial aid towards the cost of the program. And when we speak about financial aid, we speak about grants, scholarships, and loans. Aid does vary per student, but I do want to emphasize that financial aid packages tend to be loan heavy during the summer. And summer are non-essential terms, and unfortunately, there are less grants available during the summer than there would be during the academic year. So something to do keep in mind. To receive financial aid for these programs, you will need to complete the 23 to 24 academic year FAFSA, and no other action is required. That's all that's needed. If for those that have a CalVIT waiver, this is applicable, and you would be able to use it towards the cost of your study abroad program. So one thing I do want to dive in a little bit more is the example of loans. Mentioning that it is loan heavy. So let's say we take the total cost of Glasgow, which is 10,757. For someone who has an EFC of 0, based on the 22 to 2023 academic school year funding, we can expect the student to receive approximately $3,000 in grants and the remaining $7,000 in loans, which will bring the total financial aid package to the 10,757. So I simply want to give you a visual of what that grants and loans division would be for an EFC of 0, emphasizing that this is loan heavy. Of course, if you have a different EFC and academic year funding changes per year, if you are interested in receiving a rough estimate of what you can expect to receive in grants and loans, you're welcome to connect with the UCLA Financial Aid Center via Message Center, and then let them know which program you're participating, provide them with the total cost of the program, and they can give you a very rough estimate, subject to change, but it gives you a good feel of what to expect. So any payments to UCEAP. So the timelines are different, especially for those who expect to receive financial aid and those who do not. So those that do not expect to receive a financial aid package, your first payment would be of $950, and these are generally due on April 1st, which is also the withdrawal deadline. The remaining balance would be due on June 1st. So there will be 2 payments, April 1st and June 1st. For our financial aid students, you are not responsible for any payments because you expect to receive a financial aid package. You would be responsible for any payments when you know that there is a balance due. So for example, going back to our grants and loans but estimate that I previously showed, let's say you accept the $3,000 in grants, but you do not accept the $7,000 in loans, then you would be responsible for paying UCEAP those $7,000 once you know that you will not be accepting that aid. That's the only time. Otherwise, you can ignore all payments on the UCEAP website. Whether you are a financial aid recipient or not, there are early expenses that need to be made. That includes, for example, Glasgow, you would need to give a housing deposit directly to Glasgow, not on the UCEAP website. Airfare, students are responsible for purchasing their own airfare. So that would come out of your pockets before financial aid is distributed. And any late withdrawals for students who withdraw after April 1st, they're subject to a minimum 500 withdrawal fee, not including any third-party withdrawal fees. So all of these, they're accounted for in that total estimated budget, but these are some things that need to be paid up front before financial aid kicks in. Something I do want to emphasize that there are scholarships available for students to help chip away at the costs. For those that receive a federal Pell Grant, I would encourage you to look into the Gilman scholarships. We have the UK undergraduate scholarship for those interested specifically in the University of Glasgow program. You can find more information on these scholarships or anything that's available on ieo.ucla.edu/scholarships. We also have a staff member in our office dedicated specifically to the scholarships, so she can help you navigate a little bit more about what's out there as well if you are interested. Now, I do want to take some time to take a quick poll and hear about your opinion. So like I mentioned, on the summer physics programs, you will be only enrolling in 2 courses, Physics 1 and Physics 2, for a total of 8 units and 8 weeks. There may be an opportunity for students to take be an additional course, an elective course that may satisfy a UCLA GE. So the key differences between this program is that you will be adding another course to your already fast-paced and already rigorous program, and you will be earning an additional 4 units. So you will be abroad for 8 weeks total and earning 12 units. This elective course that I'm speaking about, it has been pre-approved by the UCLA College and the School of Engineering to satisfy either the historical or social analysis GE. And the key component is that adding this elective would cost an estimated $2,000 more. So that would bring the total cost of the program to $12,916. And going back to that financial aid package, let's say, for example, you select this program, you have an EFC of 0. Because you're taking more units, the amount in grants has increased. So you would receive approximately $6,000 in grants and equally $6,000 in loans, bringing your total financial aid package to $12,916. With this option, I'm going to launch a quick poll just to see if you would be interested in learning more information, or if this was a program that was offered to you, would you be interested in something like this? I'll give this just perhaps a minute or so. So it looks like we're divided. It seems about 50 and 40, not too bad. So I'll give it 10 more seconds. Awesome, thank you. So it looks like 55% answered yes, you would be interested. 45 said no. For those that are interested, and even for those that said no, if you are interested in staying in the loop, you're welcome to scan the QR code or enter the bit.ly link provided. If you want to enter your email address, I can provide you more information as it's available. So for example, which program would be offering this elective, what provide you with the syllabi of that elective course, when this program would open if it is available. By no means does this mean that you are obligated to apply to this program. This is simply for you to learn more about the program. So if you're interested, feel free to join our interest form. I'll leave it on screen for about 15 more seconds just to give you an opportunity to sign up. And thank you all for those that participated in the poll. It's really helpful. I'll pass it along to our UCEAP team to see what the final decision would be on this type of program. Alrighty, so now if that concludes our info session, if you have any questions, I can take a couple before we gear towards our student panel. So I'll take a couple minutes and then we'll begin with our student panel. If you have any, enter them in the Q&A. Let me see. So we do have one question, so let's see. Was there a program in the past to complete Physics 5 ABC and 1 summer abroad? Does that still program exist? Yes, these were actually the programs previously. There was a reevaluation of these programs, and unfortunately it was determined that because it was a lot of information, it would be more appropriate for students to satisfy just 2 courses as opposed to a full year. So these are the programs. It no longer exists, unfortunately, but these are the programs. How much does a program cost? Our Dublin program is still pending. We should receive that information within the next week. Glasgow is confirmed to cost $10,000. Do students find it easy to take 5C at UCLA after taking 5A, 5B abroad? Is there a lot of continuity in subject material? That is a very good question. This was our first year launching this new version, so only completing A and B abroad. Hopefully we have our student return, you can touch upon this topic a little bit more. I can say that students did send me a couple emails asking about what the next steps were for enrolling in 5C. As long as you successfully complete this course, you're more than welcome to just enroll in 5C for the fall quarter. If you feel as though you unsuccessfully completed these courses, and that would require conversation with your academic advisor. But you're welcome to connect with a student returnee. If it's not during our student panel, just emailing other students to get their feedback. Send me a quick email and I can connect you with one of our summer 2022 participants as well. Will applications be competitive, or are applicants very likely to get accepted? These are not competitive programs. They are not limited space. So as long as you meet the requirements of the program, you are very likely to get accepted. What dates would the program be? Those are still pending. We can expect mid-June to mid-August, but the final dates will be available within the next couple of weeks. Are there any opportunities to go to Switzerland? There are opportunities, and not through this program, not through the summer physics programs, but through UCEAP in general. So on their website, you can also find different countries as well, but Switzerland is one of the options. I believe there's an internship in Geneva. Will this recording be posted anywhere? Yes, it will be. So after this session, it's going to first thing tomorrow, it'll be posted on our YouTube channel as well as our summer physics webpage. And I will send you all the link directly since you RSVP'd. I'll send that all to you along with the slides. So you'll have access to that. The math requirements don't need to be completed by winter 2023 if you are a first year, right? If you are interested in the physics for physical science track and have not started the math series, that is correct. You will be considered as that STEM exception, but it's only if you are the physics for physical science track and are first year. To confirm, the Dublin program does not satisfy the physics requirement for engineering students, correct? Correct. It is only the University of Glasgow and where students can satisfy the physics for engineering requirement. Do you know how much of the 10,000 for Glasgow is tuition? The exact estimate, I'm not certain. It will be relatively soon, but let me go back to the slide so I can show you what it was last year so you can see what the total portion was. So for example, last year, the tuition was relatively 3,000 plus the 4,000, so 7,000 total was the UCEAP total program cost. Tuition itself was about roughly 3,000. I expect that to stay the same, but more or less that's what it was last year. Do students find that they are able to travel and have fun on the weekends, or do they usually very loaded with coursework and study? Very good question. I'll leave that one. If you hopefully you're able to stick around for our student returnee. I can give you my advisor feedback and say yes, students are able to travel and have fun, but I'll have our student returnee touch upon that so you can get a little bit more of a student perspective. How much more for out-of-state students? Very good question. I did forget to mention this. There is no out-of-state non-resident tuition on any summer programs. I do hope you participate on these summer physics programs, but let's say, for example, you're interested in any other summer program available through UCLA. There is no non-resident tuition during the summer. It is not an essential term, so you do not have that supplemental fee. Will the course credits and marks show up on your UCLA transcript like your other courses? Yes, they will. They will appear as having been taken at their respective university. They will not fall on your DARS under that respective term, but on your UCLA transcript, they will. They will read Summer 2023, University College Dublin, and then Physics 1 and Physics 2 along with the grade that was received. Is this for the summer 2023? Will it be offered again for summer 2024? This is information for our 2023 term, and we do expect the programs to be available for summer 2024. There may be some changes, but we do expect these programs to be ready then as well. So it looks like we'll have two more, and then we'll get started with our panel. So if you're not sure if you can do the program, can you cancel as long as it's before April free day? April, yes. So let's say, for example, you submit your application and it opens on October 4th, and you decide December 15th, hey, I no longer want to do this program. I prefer to do another. That's perfectly fine. You will send me an email, say, hey, Anna, I submitted my application. Here's my UID. I would like to withdraw my application. Any withdrawals after April 1st will have that fee, but any withdrawals before April 1st, yes, you can absolutely withdraw your application. So very last question, how does a physics 4AL work if we take 4B abroad? Don't they have to be taken together for engineering major? Very good question. For this, I would encourage you to speak with the UCLA physics department. There's been some students, who inquire as well as the 4AL and BL requirements. So connect with the physics department to see what their take is as well as what they would recommend if you do have to take that 4-year engineering major. Very good question. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started with our student panel. If there's anything that I did not answer, please send me a quick email. I'd be happy to address those, schedule a Zoom appointment. We'll be happy to have a conversation, as well as any general drop-ins. So thank you all for joining us today and hope you can stick around for our student panel.